All right, let's set up the jacket making die. There's other parts that come with the press. When you buy this as a kit, it comes with everything you need. You're going to need this to actually hold the punch. And what I did was I found a washer. I went to the hardware store and I got a washer that just barely fits over this punch right here. And you get extra punches with it, and because these will sometimes break. I already shattered one already, and they're a little bit loose, and you kind of want them have a little bit of play in there. And what that does is allows it to find the center of the die, so it's not putting too much pressure on one side of the jacket as to the other. So your jackets come out nice and consistent. The first thing we do is we put this guy in right here. Screw the punch in. Then what they don't give you is this little washer. What this washer does is if this somehow gets stuck on here, and they'll get stuck. I guarantee you they'll get stuck. At some point you'll get one that's stuck. What I do is I just go up and it pulls this off so I can get the jacket off of there without destroying it. It's really nice. So we'll just add that to it. Then we take the RF die, make sure that the RF is pointing up. You'll see that this is the entrance here and this is the exit. Now we're ready to go. We need lubricant. Now Corbin sells their bullet swage lube, which is highly recommended that you use. I've tried other lubricants that don't work quite as well as this. You don't need much. So here we go. Just take a little bit, rub between your fingers, roll the rimfire case around in it, put it on there. And what it does is once it goes up, it'll start into the die and it's done. It's not going to pop out at first. You're going to have 2 or 3 in there. If you're turning 22 shorts into jackets, it'll hold 4 of them before they start popping out the top. Once they start in here, be very careful because you can damage the mouth of the jacket. And if you do, it's not a big deal, you just trim it out. There's quite a bit of pressure here. So when you're making these, just be sure that you understand that the forces you're exerting on this are quite extreme, and you don't want to slam it into there. You want to ease it up in there. There we go. Here's our first one. He's ready to go. Now this is what I call a basic jacket. Why it's basic is simple. They still have to be annealed. If you don't anneal them, what will happen is when you're forming it on the point, it'll fold over and crack. And that's a real problem. I have some examples of those. We'll take some close-ups once we get to that point. But you just keep doing this with your clean jackets. Don't just use the fire jackets at the range. Tumble them, boil them a couple times, and it'll get a lot of crud out of there. Then once you're done annealing them, you have to clean them again. For some reason, the inside of these jackets here will get this residue in there and it'll want to stick. You can actually see it. It's like this gray powdery stuff. You want to get as much of that out of there and keep this as clean on the inside as you can possibly make it. I don't care if the jackets are dark, you know, from the annealing process. They'll turn kind of a mottled brown color, kind of a color case hardened look. They're not pretty, but you know, they shoot fine. But the cleaner you have the inside of the jacket, the better your bullet's going to perform. Otherwise, you're going to have inconsistencies with the core sitting in there, and if the core is not exactly centered, the bullet's going to want to wobble and a little bit in flight, and it'll cause you a problem. Also, if you have a little bit of lubricant in there, what will happen is when under firing, there's a lot of G-forces exerted on that bullet, and the core will shift, which will cause you real accuracy problems. So let's go ahead and Make another jacket. And we're done. I didn't get one to stick, but this one tried to pull back out. And a lot of times what you'll need to do is just put a little bit of lubricant on here. And once you get your fingers wet with the lubricant, it'll last you a while on here. And if you get one stuck, just go pull this up and pop the case right off there and you're done. And just put it back on there. Otherwise you need to take a pair of pliers and try to lift it off of there, and you can run into trouble. So there's the other jacket. Word of advice: don't use the Russian steel cases on here. And I have not tried the aluminum cases, but I was told that not to use those. And what you're going to find is the different manufacturers, the different cases will weigh differently. So far, Remington seems to be the lightest. Federal, from my experience, has the most consistent weight. And Aguila, or Gila, however you pronounce it, makes a really good jacket. And Ely makes a very, very nice jacket. So if you have anybody at the range shooting like Ely match or extra match, try to get those cases, because they really make a nice consistent jacket. They seem to be a little bit softer, so they're a little easier to work with. The Federals are nice. However, I do kind of prefer the Remingtons because they're a lot thinner. And you're going to find that the weights on the long rifle, about 9.2 grains for the Remington and 10 to 11 for the CCI and Federal. Here's some examples of some jackets that I've made. In here I have a bunch of them that I made, but I have not annealed them yet. I have noticed that it doesn't make any difference in the amount of effort that I put to push it through the RF jacket maker. But when they are annealed, they're a little darker. And the way I anneal them, there's two different ways I anneal them. You can either hit them with a torch, which takes an extremely long time. Or, the better way, if you have a conventional oven that has a self-cleaning mode on there, take a cookie sheet. Don't use your wife's cookie sheet because she'll clobber you with it. Take a cookie sheet or two and lay out one smooth, even layer of the jackets all across it, and set it to the self-clean, which usually takes about 30 to 45 minutes. Just let it sit in the oven and let it go. Once the oven starts, it gets to a certain temperature and it locks. You can't open it. But once it's done, go ahead and take them out, and you can throw them in the water to quench them and it'll soften them, or I just let them air cool and they seem to do just fine. The only jackets that really that doesn't like this process are the nickel plated ones like the CCI Stingers, or some of the Federal ones that are nickel plated. They get kind of funny looking, and when you put the point on there, you'll see that the nickel will have like little tiny cracks. It'll have like a frosted look. I haven't shot those yet because I'm still trying to figure out that's going to be tough on my barrel. Copper fouling is tough enough to get out. I'm not sure what nickel plating would do to my barrel. So that's what we got. Then once I start swaging, I go through and I pick out the brand that I want to use. I try to keep it all the same, figure out the weight that I'm going to use, and then either I trim them for just consistency. I pick out the shortest one and use that as my template and trim all the other ones to that same length. What I want to do is set up my trimmer in order to where I can cut them with the cores in them, because once the cores are seated, that's where a lot of the overall length variations start to occur. So we got the jackets. Let's go ahead and cut some cores.